It was a few weeks ago. I attended a presentation, and when the guest started to speak, I leaned in immediately. What she spoke of resonated so closely with much of what we talk about here, and so I knew I wanted to invite her for a conversation. Serena Sacks Mandel is currently the Global Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft for the education industry. And before joining Microsoft, she was the Chief Information Officer at Florida Virtual School and Fulton County Schools, where she enabled student-centric teaching and learning by flipping the script on classroom models that we all experienced. Before moving into education, she had been part of the technology innovation teams at companies like IBM and Walt Disney World. And not only has she been recognized with multiple awards for leadership vision and her commitment to supporting women in technology, she's also written this fantastic book that aligns with much of the work of knowing who we are, looking at the stories we tell ourselves, and helping others find their purpose. So, Serena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me. I loved meeting you the other day, and I'm glad we're able to continue the conversation.
Yes, immediately, as soon as you started speaking, like, I have to meet this woman. All right. So we're going to start on the professional realm here, because to be the Chief Global Technology Officer for Education, I almost see you like sitting on top of the globe, right? So you're all over the globe for education. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got there.
Sure. So, the first, I'd say 20 plus years of my career, I love technology. So I was in commercial IT, I was climbing the ladder, I was working my tail off. And then the downturn of 2008 happened, and I pivoted back to consulting, which I had done before. And my last consulting gig, about 2 years into the process, was with Florida Virtual. And that was my aha moment. Like, oh my gosh, I can use my powers for good. I know technology, I know organizational leadership. And I connected with Julie Young, the CEO and founder. And the CIO position opened up. I said, I could do that. And I could also help with so many other things. So she put me on her cabinet. And that just launched, the next phase of my career, where I was so purpose driven. And so I went from Florida Virtual, where I learned so much about education and personalization and meeting students where they are. And I wanted to create a model that was replicatable across the whole country and maybe the world. And that's kind of what happened. So I went to Fulton County Schools, where we transform education at scale for 100,000 students a year across a hugely highly diverse group of students. And then the pandemic hit, and we were the first district to turn to remote because we were ready. And then I had the other districts, LAUSD and New York City, calling saying, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 6 years, And I realized it was time to scale that up, to start realizing the next phase of my dream and working with districts and higher ed across the whole country. So I was first the US leader for customer success in education. And then 2 years into that, I just felt this draw to go to the world view. And it has been such a gift to be able to work with ministries of education, large districts, both research institutions around the globe, academic medical centers, and really help them leverage technology to transform education and make it more student-centric and more workforce ready. So it's just, I'm very purpose-driven, and I just keep building and growing and learning every single day. And I feel like I've been very fortunate.
Yes, I just resonate so much with that story. My career started in education. And, I always knew that the sage on the stage and your factory workers in rows, like, we're not in the Industrial Revolution anymore, right? And so being able to transfer that and really prepare those students for the workforce, because
Right.
that's not what the workforce is anymore. So I love that we have that going on. So I would love to know, because there's a lot of disruptions in the world right now within our global systems that affect education and technology. So what are you seeing that is maybe the hot button right now?
Well, AI is a part of every conversation, and
Yes.
there's fear, and there's trepidation, and there's excitement. and there's change every day. So it is a bit head spinning to kind of keep up with it all. But it's, in the education community, it's, oh my gosh, students are going to cheat, or can I harness it? And I will say that studies are showing now that there's no greater cheating before and after generative AI was released, ChatGPT. So cheating is kind of like a big thing that everybody thinks about, but there's absolutely ways around that we really want to be looking for evidence of learning versus evidence of cheating. Students that are cheating themselves. And, we want to help students learn the process. So I was just talking to some friends the other day, and they're like, well, aren't students going to just you tell them to write an essay and they're just going to chat GPT it? They're not going to do it. And I said, yes. So the educator needs to help them through the process and say, give me your thesis or your opening line. Give me your outline. Now give me some sources. Now give me a first draft. Now let's analyze that and do the second draft. So it's the process of constructing, a 5-paragraph essay or a position paper. So it's taking the students through the process, not just telling them to go do that. And so we also want to look for that evidence of learning. So having that sort of Socratic method where the educator asks the student to defend their position, kind of like a dissertation, but at a age appropriate level. That helps the student think critically and really absorb the information and develop those human skills of presenting and reasoning and logic. And those are the skills that they're going to need in the future, is what we're calling human intelligence and human skills. So critical thinking, presentation, conflict resolution, relationship building. These are things that are purely human, and AI is our assistant. It's our co-pilot. It's to help us. And when we claim our humanness, then we can leverage AI to make our lives better.
I love that. And I think AI, really what it's going to do, it's going to push learning from what has traditionally been, here is the information, spit it back to me, which that's what AI would do, right? So what are they going to use in the workforce? They're going to leverage AI. So how can we use that to analyze, to interpret, to all of those things? So it's going to demand our students learn versus regurgitate facts. So yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity to really shift learning and make it meaningful.
Exactly. So once we protect the students, we make it a safe, secure environment, and we harness the data that AI uses as its fuel, then it's a bright new world that we can really use to help students actually learn those human skills versus just regurgitating. But what that means is that the curriculum or the content needs to change, the way we teach. So like I was saying, you have to help students step through the process, but then you're going to be helping them leverage AI and do prompt engineering and do critical thinking on what is AI giving them. But finally, assessment needs to change. So you can't just have a binary right or wrong, because actually the answer matters less than the thought process. We should be looking at students' work even more so than the outcome, right? We should, and AI can do that. We did the bubble sheets because that was easy to grade. You put it through a Scantron. But AI can actually look at the process that the student's using, like show your work. We used to doing that in math, but we can do that in any type of discipline.
Yeah, that's going to really shift things. I know. One thing I also know is that you are a big advocate for women in technology. So what I would like to know is, I seem to talk to a lot of people that are very interested in women in technology. So tell me, what are some of the challenges that they're facing today?
So I've been in what you'd call a male-dominated field my entire career. I've been in technology. And so, and since back in, the 80s, so I've experienced everything that you can in that field. And it's a challenge. It's still, I think we've come so far. I have 3 daughters, and I see that, the world is more open for them. But then my oldest daughter, she was in corporations, and she was still experiencing some of the things that were sort of demeaning. And the other challenge is, as much as men have, and husbands and fathers have started to step up, and some companies have, paternity leave, like Microsoft, it seems that women still feel that burden of I have to be the perfect worker and I have to be the perfect mother. And that pull, that tension is difficult. And I've lived through that. I've had the high-powered career while I'm raising children. And some of that was as a single mother. So those challenges really resonate with me. And I talk about that. I talk about that in my book. I talk about how to claim your power. The other thing is, and I think you know this from my book, Lisa, we've all had challenges in personal and professional lives. And our personal and professional lives are so melded these days since the pandemic. And I think there's been kind of a loathe to talk about that, to speak out and say, this is affecting me and I'm trying to be my best at work, but I need a minute. Some companies are way more accommodating than others, but it does tend to be women that feel things deeply and need the connections at work and in their personal lives. So I talk about overcoming personal and professional challenges and resilience and persistence and how do we harness our strength and move forward in the face of fear, in the face of uncertainty, in the face of not being able to be our authentic self. People come up to me and said, I don't feel like I can be my authentic self in my current job. What should I do? And I said, you need to leave. If you cannot be your best self in that role, you need to find another. And that particular person said, but I'm on an H-1B visa. And I said, okay, then every day is an opportunity to contribute in some way. You have talent, you have skills, you were hired, contribute, add value, but learn, be always building your toolkit. And even if it's a difficult situation, you can learn from that. And if you have that growth mindset, that learning mentality, as well as I'm going to add value, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you can use that time to be productive and to be better in your next role.
I think the fact that that person didn't feel like could be their authentic self, I think that is what workers are not just asking for, they're demanding. And that is where leaders of today need to understand we're not back in 2019 anymore. We're new people and we want to be respected. We want to be valued. We are human. And I always say there's no difference between personal development is professional development. What you bring from your home to your desk, you can't leave that behind. So I love how you encouraged her. And I know you mentor a lot of people, Serena. Yes. So I would really love to get more into your book now. So your book is called Empowered, Frame Your Narrative, Own Your Power. What was the key inspiration behind writing this book?
My personal journey, I've been through a lot and I've overcome a lot. And this is the book that I wish I had when I was in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. It would have been great to know that I wasn't alone, that it was okay to have this challenged history and past, that I didn't have to run from it. I could embrace it and actually use it as my superpower, that I have overcome this. And that's the key message is make yourself the victor of your story, not the victim. And so when you say I overcame, as opposed to this happened to me, you are claiming your power. And you're letting go of that victimhood, and that puts you in the right frame of mind. And I've always done that, but I needed to write it down and share it with other people to help them. I mean, I really wrote the book because this painful life that I've had, which is now wonderful, I'll say it's a happy ending, shouldn't go wasted. If it helps somebody else get through their challenge, then I want to share it. And I love mentoring. I have several people that I've got personal, agreements with, and I mentor and coach them both in their personal and professional life. And you're so right. In the 80s, when I worked for IBM in Manhattan, right, in the finance industry, when I walked through that door, I had a smile on my face no matter what was going on behind me. It left at the door. And I was a different person at work than I was at home. And I was embarrassed by my past. I mean, if you look at the book, it's like, it was a very tough upbringing and I was embarrassed by it. So I pulled myself up, put on my blue suit and white shirt, and left it at the door. But like you said, the pandemic has changed everything, and we are different people. I love what you just said.
Yes. And so, for people who are interested in the book, could you maybe just share a story that would encapsulate your essence of empowerment?
Sure. So, this Own Your Power. I'll tell a quick personal story, and it's rough, and I'm happy to debate and discuss because it's there, it's out there. I put my story out there, right? My parents got divorced when I was very young, and it wasn't just like a run-of-the-mill divorce. First of all, people didn't get divorced in the 60s, so there was a big stigma attached to it. But my parents were actually fighting in court for the next 13 years until I was 18, and they legally couldn't fight anymore. So when I was 17 and graduating from high school, and my father, by the way, was wealthy. He, drove a Mercedes. He was a country club champion for 13 years. He was a scratch golfer. And he's a veterinarian. So he's a pillar of the community, taking care of people's dogs and cats in Bedford, New York, which is a very affluent area. And he called me June of my senior year of high school, when I was already accepted at the college of my choice, and told me that he would not be paying for college, even though he had promised it. And he told me the money was aside. And he said, "It's not because I can't. I don't want to. You haven't been a good daughter." And I'm like, and he was just like, "I don't care what you do with your life, but I'm not sending you to college." So he was literally trying to steal my future to get back at my mother. And of course, it was, traumatic and stressful. Thankfully, my mother, and my stepfather at that time stepped in and said, well, my stepfather had 6 kids. And he said, "I have guaranteed that I would pay for state school tuition for my kids. And so I will give you state school tuition." And of course, I was going to go to a private school. My mother drove me out to Stony Brook, and the dean accepted me on the spot. And so, and I had to pay for everything else. I worked my whole way through school, but at least I had, and tuition for state school wasn't that bad. So, I was jet propelled. I was jet fueled by my father and what he did to me. And I ended up graduating with a bachelor's and a master's in an accelerated program with a 393, Phi Beta Kappa, a long resume, and offers from the federal government and IBM. And I say that not because I'm special. I just worked my tail off because I was so angry. And I never consider myself that smart. I'm just really a hard worker. And that changed my life, And somebody asked in one of the sessions that I presented, well, if your father had paid for school, would you have been so driven?
It's a good question.
It's an interesting question. For me, I think I would have been driven either way. I was just more angry than driven. And I could have used with a little less anger if they hadn't done that. But it's all worked out. My oldest brother, he said, "Yeah, Dad should have paid for you," and but my sister, when I was writing the book, she didn't want me to write the book because she has a very different view of my father, and he didn't do that to her. I was like, "He did that to me." She goes, "Well, you were a bad daughter." And I mean, it said more about her than me. And she later, took that back and said, "I shouldn't have said that. That was wrong." But, the point about the book is that it doesn't matter what somebody says or does. It matters who I am and what I decide, right? I let all of that go, and I'm going to show up in a way that supports other people, and I claim my own success. So that's the message about claiming your power. I did this, no matter, it doesn't matter. People say things, but that's their stuff. People do their stuff. You get to decide who you are, how you show up, and what you do in this world. People say to me, "How come you do so much for other people when you have been so hurt and so wronged over and over and over?" I said, "Because that's who I am. I get joy out of giving and helping." When recently I worked with somebody in Croatia, very, very talented person at Microsoft. And he said to me, "I really want to come to the United States. And my dream is to work. He's already at Microsoft, but he wanted to work in Microsoft at Nashville, Tennessee. I said, well, I live in Tennessee and I can help you with that. I know that team. And this month he's moving to Tennessee. It took him less than a year and he now has a job. And that is the thing that lights me up. It's like, yes, you go. Like just helping people fulfill and find their dream and define their own success. That is what gives me energy. And so maybe it is selfish. I'm doing it because I feel good when I help people.
You know, what I hear in that is, think about it. Your father closed the door on opportunity to you. So look at what you're doing to heal that. You're opening the door to opportunity for so many people. And it's a way to write something that he was dealing with, right? So something he was dealing with. It wasn't about you. It wasn't that you weren't a good daughter, but I could see how that would propel you. You believe that I'm going to show you something different, and not,
Right.
You weren't doing it for him. You were doing it for yourself. You were showing yourself to do that. So I always look at that ripple effect of how someone's words can impact others and how you were able to shift it for good and be able to impact so many other people. Well, you know, one thing I know, when you spoke at this event, that phrase about choosing to be the victor versus the victim, I think there were probably 4 or 5 questions around that. Is that one that a lot of people seem to lean into?
Yes, yes. I spoke to several hundred people, women in tech, a couple of months ago, and they loved that. So everyone was posting on LinkedIn, victor versus victim. Yes, you know. And actually, I think in the book, I really said, be your hero, be the hero of your story. So actually, I came up with that as I was speaking about it, that it, you know, the VV makes, you know, it rolls off the tongue. So I want to add one more thing about the not getting, being stopped from going to the school of my choice.
Yes.
Life is so ironic, right? And my second daughter, when she turned about 16, she's like, Mom, I think I know where I really want to go. It turned out to be the same school that I had gotten into that was my first choice. And I asked her why. She gave me the same reasons that I had said.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I told her that at that time that was the school I was supposed to go to. And don't you know, her father did almost the same thing. He, when it came to pay for her, she got accepted to pay for her tuition. He refused to help, and he actually refused to let her use her 529, which is a college account. So I ended up having to pay for the school I was supposed to go to. I paid for her tuition and all her expenses too, so she didn't have to work.
Wow, full circle.
Yes, it's very ironic, and you know, it's very interesting, right?
Yeah, that gave me chills when you said she chose
Yeah.
that. All right.
Yeah, just
So
happened at the same school.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, you know, when you spoke, you talk about framing your own narrative.
Yes.
How do you advise people to go about doing that?
You know, the best thing is to have kind of one-on-one discussions. And it is that victor mentality, be the hero of your story. I overcame this versus this happened to me. And, you know, there's just so many examples of that. So, you'll see later in the book, you know, I had a battle with cancer, and I had 6 months of chemo, and then the cancer actually came back and metastasized within weeks. And I had to get even more cancer for the next chemo for the next 6 months. And, you know, attitude matters so much. And this goes back to the framing your narrative. The first 6 months, I had pretty much given up. I had actually won Woman of the Year. I had won CIO of the Year. I'd won all these awards. I had transformed education. I'm like, you know what? I wasn't even supposed to be here to begin with. I've had a good life. I've raised my kids. I'm good. God, you know, if you want to take me now. It's okay. But if not, if I am supposed to be here, give me my purpose. Let me do the work that I'm supposed to do. I need to be purposeful. And the second 6 months, my whole mindset changed. I envisioned the chemo actually helping. So the first 6 months, I was so angry. I was like, why did this happen to me? Why me? Why? You know, I'm done. The second 6 months, I was like, okay, this is going to work. I am going to find my purpose again. This is going to. And so Sometimes you have to really just dig deep, and instead of saying, why me, say, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Mhm.
What am I supposed to do from this experience? How can I help other survivors? And so, I've survived, and that has been inspirational to a lot of people. So I think when you check your attitude, and instead of saying, why me, say, what am I supposed to learn from this challenge? That's how you reframe it.
Yes, I think looking at it from that different perspective of what can I do with this knowledge? What lesson am I to learn? What does this make possible, right?
How can I help others?
Yes, and how can I help others? So there is a lot of talk about purpose today. I know you and I are very much aligned on this. And people are, scrambling all over. They're looking for it everywhere. Where can I find it? What can I do? So I know you mentor and coach people on this as well. How do you tell people to approach this question?
So I do have a diagram that I use that talks about, what is your passion? What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? And what does the world need? What is going to contribute? But the bottom line on purpose, it's so simple. Your purpose is not about you. It's about what you're doing for others and the world. You won't feel fulfilled truly unless it's about others. Buying a bigger car, a bigger boat, a bigger house it's temporary. It's like, it's great, but really helping others is what fills you up intrinsically. That's why, you get a paycheck and you always want more and more and more. And that's just numbers in the bank. But when you make a difference for others, when your purpose is about helping others in some way or making the world better in some way, then it's fulfilling. And so I always look for, and you can look at this at any industry, even, insurance, which is a money game, but you're helping people sleep better at night. You're helping them feel safe and secure. You're helping them, so it's always about the end customer. And I think at the session we were at, I challenged people, give me a job, give me a role. And, we turned it into a purpose. But I will say that some people feel like their job is not so fulfilling. And if you want to do something that is more fulfilling, that can be your hobby. You can help with a food bank. You can help at your religious organization. There's always people in need. There's always people that could use a hand. And it isn't always monetary. It is often doing something for someone, teaching somebody something, volunteering. There's so many things you can do that are fulfilling, even if you're sort of in a holding pattern in your job.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be a project. It could also be something as simple as every day I'm going to pay one person a compliment to make them smile. Right. And so to bring more light into the world, that might be your purpose at that point. And
that brings it back to you when you do that.
It does. It does. It's the part of you that you are giving. And I think one reason why people struggle with this is they don't know the value they have first. They don't know who they are first. So they think, what can I give to others? Well, it's because they don't know who they are. So I think it's very true of impacting others.
So there's kind of I'd say a secret around this is you find yourself by interacting with others. If you don't know who you are. And by that same token, you're building your network. And when you build your network, you create possibilities for yourself and others. So it's the connection and be a giver. Like, don't ask for something in return. It'll happen another time. Always be giving. And if you think you don't have anything to give, even a child can give because their perspective is interesting. They're a unique person. Who hasn't talked to a child and had them say something like, oh, wow, that's incredible. My daughters, even when they were in high school, they were mentoring other people, and they're in their 20s now, and they mentor others. You always have something to give. And I always believe a mentoring relationship is bi-directional. I learn from younger people all the time. There's no monopoly on truth or perspective or value. I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know what is new in the world. So we can all help each other.
Yes. And I think when we understand that we don't know it all, like we may believe that we're intelligent, but it's when we lean in and get curious, like other people can teach us so much of Why do you believe that? That's interesting. Or what experience did you have that brought you to that? So,
I
yeah,
love
I
that.
think it is
Curious.
both ways. Yeah, getting curious, getting curious. So, Serena, how does sharing your story through your book and public speaking? I know you do public speaking and you're always looking for more. How has that influenced your own journey?
It's just made it so much richer. It's just people I've met, the energy that is felt in the room when I'm sharing things, and it's resonating. All the things that I've been through, it resonates. People are seen and they're felt, and their challenges that are out there. It is the best feeling for me is to really feel that energy in the room and connect with either an individual or a whole group. It's very powerful.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I always love to go to this question too, is asking people, success, as you referenced before, is like maybe having a car or money in the bank. I think a lot of people, that is the narrative that we're given, that you will find success when this happens. But I would love to know, in in reference to all the things you've been through, how do you define success today?
And I just want to make the point that we should all define success in our own terms.
Yes.
So, we have these tapes playing in our head that our family has put in there or somebody has put in there. And, even when choosing a spouse, and I have to go back to this, my first husband checked all the boxes. They were the wrong boxes. They were
Yes.
somebody else's boxes. I'm now married to the love of my life, and you just really, it's so important to define success on your own terms, define what you want. And success isn't, there's some money involved because we all, Maslow's hierarchy, we need that base, we need that base standard of living. But for me, my purpose has been to transform education. And when I really see the difference and the groups and the connections that I'm making in that educational technology industry, in that transformation space, that is the success that I'm seeking. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's really amazing. So
Yes. And so grateful you are, because that really needs to happen. We need to have that transformation. So, Serena, what final message or piece of advice would you like to leave with our listeners who are seeking to frame their own narratives and own their power? What would you like to leave them with?
I think the number one superpower is resilience. We all have stuff happen to us, whether it's personally, professionally, but the more we can build that resiliency muscle, and it is a muscle, it isn't. This is why, Adam Grant in his book, Hidden Potential, talks about the people that are the most successful are those that have overcome things. When you look at a student who has always gotten straight A's, always had it easy, as soon as they hit a stumble and roadblock, we don't know what's going to happen. But that student that has overcome and overcome and overcome, they're going to continue to overcome. And that resilience trumps IQ. EQ is super important, but the resilience and the hard work is what creates our success. And that can be built up. Now, sometimes we need support, we need guidance, we need mentors, we need coaches. And hopefully, that's where I come into play, that I can really help people get through those hard times and reach that next peak. And know, yes, this is the peak we're going for, and here we are. So really celebrate that success.
That's wonderful. And I think also when people go through that, they know they can get through anything as well, right? They have that. Yeah, they have that. So, Serena, this has been a great conversation. What is the best way for people to contact you if they would like to have you come speak or would like to follow along, know more about you? What's the best way to reach you?
Sure. I love LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn many times a day. It's Serena Sacks Mandel. I connect with lots and lots of people, talk to them over that. I do have a website. I can't say it's really built out because I'm so busy working and helping people, but it is my full name, serenasacksmandel.com. And so they can reach me either way, but LinkedIn is probably the thing I check the most. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to engage, and maybe I can come speak to your company, to your women in tech, your group, whatever, or even coach or counsel individuals.
All right. Very good. So if you are interested in learning more about this, go follow Serena on LinkedIn. Make sure you reach out to her and just let her know you heard her on the podcast. I think when people come on and they have these conversations, we're in front of our microphones. She and I are looking at each other, but how do we know anyone else is out there listening? So let us know that you heard the show and you heard the episode. So Serena, thank you so much for being with us today. I loved this conversation, and I hope it's not the last one.
Yeah, Lisa, let's stay in touch. And thank you. And yes, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Hopefully this has resonated or helped you in some way. So,
all right, thanks. Well, my biggest takeaway is we all have the power to choose the story that we want to write. So go chase your passion, lean into it fully. That is where your purpose will begin to appear. And when you share it with others is when we create a life of so much more on the way to becoming our legendary selves. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.